Today I'm going to be going into my top 3 tips on how to get gigs. After my video on tips for the live drummer, I got a lot of people saying, if they're the tips on how to keep the gig, how do I get the gig? And that's a great question. So my top 3 tips for getting the gig start with putting yourself out there. Number 1, you got to put yourself out there. There's always Facebook groups and Instagram communities and all these places where you can put yourself out there, and whether you have just moved to a place like when I did back when I moved to the sunny coast, I found the Sunshine Coast musicians and bands, put myself in there, and that sort of became the hub of communication where I found out where people were and what people were up to. From that, you got to put yourself out there to the next stage and actually make a post, comment on things. People aren't just going to pick you up just by being in the group. You've got to engage, you've got to be active. If there's any chances for you to maybe get your own content out there, if you do some drum videos or whatever instrument you play, if you do videos and there's an opportunity to showcase that, be respectful in not just plugging your social media, because that's going to turn people off. But if people are saying, hey, I'm looking for a drummer for a couple of nights a week doing some covers, you go, hey, this is my link, this is what I'm all about, this is what I do, I'd be interested. And that's number 1. You've got to put yourself out there, because people aren't going to just find you by accident, especially not at the start. Number 2, be professional and have etiquette. So etiquette is going to be related to both the musicians you're playing with, the venue you're playing at, and the gear you're using, especially as a drummer playing house gear a lot of the time. Being professional encompasses that, as well as everything from the moment you accept the gig to the moment you go home. So it's about treating the gear and the people with respect and showcasing that you, by yourself in your own right, are not just to be trusted, but are to be looked upon favorably. And from there, you'll find that a lot of your network connections start from the post-gig hangs, and those things are really important when it comes to professionalism. You've got to make sure that you know what you're doing and you conduct yourself in a professional way that really showcases to everyone involved that you know what you're doing and you came to play. Number 3, you've got to be a good hang. So being a good hang is everything from your communication in the group chat and everything down to literally hanging out beforehand and afterwards and connecting with the other bands and having a conversation and being social. And I understand that sometimes it's a bit harder for some people to get out their comfort zone, but it's about being yourself and putting yourself out there, back to step 1, because no one's going to take you on tour if you're a shit bloke or a shit gal. No one's going to want to continue to work with you in more than a one-off situation. In the scheme of things, the band becomes a friendship group that becomes a family, and if you are not someone that they would necessarily want to hang out with or be friends with in any capacity outside of the music, it's not going to be sustainable. So they're my 3 tips. Top tips that I reckon are the best way to get a gig. So if you got value out of this, and look, maybe even if you got a gig out of it, let me know, drop a comment, and until next time, I'll see you later.